And welcome back to Bay Area Sports Night. By the way, fantastic interview
Thank
with
you.
Sway.
Thank
We
you.
covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah,
So it's great to talk to.
really nice guy. It was great to meet him and talk to him. And he's a great representative for the Bay Area and for Oakland, more specific. Most Oakland residents are very proud, and he's one of them.
Absolutely. And let's bring on a friend of the show, Zach Brook with NBC Sports Washington. Zach, we were talking a lot during the NBA playoffs, during the early part of the NBA offseason, kind of just trying to get a feel of the landscape of what everything is going to look like. I know we're a week and a half removed now, but we have to go back to it. I mean, what surprised you most about Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers?
That was at 4:00 in the morning here. So that was a lot of fun too. That news, like people didn't, I told people around me, they didn't believe it. And it's just wild, but I think it kind of fits his style. He doesn't want to do it in prime time. He's not going to do it in the morning. He's going to do it when it's convenient for him and when nobody's really expecting it. And I think it's great for the Clippers, and the getting Paul George too. It's fantastic, and I'm excited to see what they can do starting the season.
All right, Zach, we have a lot of superstar duos in the NBA right now. It's kind of like the NBA Jam era, NBA Jam where you pick two players per team. I'm not sure. That might be a little before your time, Zach, but we have a bunch of superstar duos now. Who do you think is the top superstar duo in the NBA? Or maybe even give me your top three because there's so many good ones.
I think number one, assuming they're both healthy, you have to go LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But that's the question. If they're healthy, you need to get at least 65 games out of LeBron and close to a full season for Davis, something he hasn't done in a really long time. I think that's you got to be number one. 1A, I don't even think it's two. It's 1A, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Plus, with the pieces they have around them that can complement their game with Patrick Beverley, they have a fierce defensive front. You're not dribbling the ball through them. So I think they're number two. Number three, I think next year, Kyrie Irving and Durant. Right now, I'd like to go Russ and James Harden in Houston.
Yeah, I can get behind all three of those duos. Speaking of Russ and James Harden, how do you think that dynamic will be? I know they're great friends, and I know they wanted to play together. So I think they're both going to be obviously willing to adapt to one another to help for the best of the team. But just to me, it still feels a little awkward, those two together.
I don't think anybody in the league has ever seen this many 23-second step backs that are just going to brick off the rim. Hopefully, Russ is in position, but both need to have to adjust, just like LeBron and Wade did about 9 years ago in Miami. Their games don't really complement each other because they're the two highest used players in the NBA. Harden, I think it's his team. If Russ would have, if by some miracle Harden went to Oklahoma City, we'd be talking about a different story. But this is Houston. This is not where Russell Westbrook is going to go grab another triple-double in the season, where he's going to kind of stand around, not set picks, and just wait to grab the statistical accolades. He's going to have to do something. And with Mike D'Antoni, who likes to shoot the three ball, I don't know how this is going to work with Russ unless they plan for him to just kind of be following up with it, because he's not the best sniper.
Do you feel like Houston got better, though, making this move?
I mean, there was reports that Chris Paul wasn't happy, and with his bloated contract, I don't know how much better they could have done. I still don't think they're a contender, but I think they're better and younger than they were 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting. And they still have some of their other pieces, which people really aren't talking about. A lot of these teams, they had to blow it all up and completely retool. They still have Clint Capella, they still have PJ Tucker, they still have Eric Gordon. If they can figure it out, they could be interesting. And I think they're going to be the most talked about team going into the year, assuming nothing else crazy happens.
Right. I kind of agree with you in the aspect. I'm not sure how much better they got, but I do think their potential got way higher. So if they do kind of strike lightning in a bottle and those two actually begin to complement each other really well, I think they could get to the finals because of how talented those two are. Now, all three of your duos were in the Western Conference. So let's go to the Eastern Conference. I guess give me your top two duos in the East.
That's going to be tough. You probably got to start with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton because there's not really much of a selection. Then, plus they played phenomenal last year, just not in the postseason. And I think they'll be a little bit better this year, but we're going to see how the rest of the team steps. Number two, wow, I'd probably have to go maybe
Vucevic and Terrence Ross.
I think maybe Oladipo and Miles Turner. I don't know how. And then probably three, I got to go Kemba and Hayward, assuming Hayward comes back at 85%. But the East is, people say the league's a lot more level. The West is. The East is still going to be four teams that are going to get through the first round, and then it's going to see who's going to be the hottest at the point.
Yeah, and it's the Eastern Conference is just we see all the teams loaded up out west.
The East had leveled the playing field, I think. The past like 2 years. I know the West was top heavy, but then when you went like 3 through 8, 3 through 9, I think 3 through 8 and 3 through 9 in the East was just as good as the West. But yeah, the Libra scale tipped again now with Kawhi going over to the West.
Absolutely. And Zach, we're trying to get an early jump on our playoff standings here. Both Jason and I, we had our top 8 last week. Can you give us your top 5 in each conference, starting with the East?
Well, with the East, it's going to be the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks because right now they were still the best team by far in the NBA last season. They just got kind of solved in the postseason, and the only really major piece that they did lose was Malcolm Brogdon. But he's one of their, I'd say he was their third, fourth best player. Still have Giannis. You still got Chris Middleton. You still have George Hill, who's phenomenal in playoffs. And you still have Brook Lopez. And even though that's not the most flashy foursome, it's the best the East has.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to number 2.
Yeah. So at 2, Jason's going to like this one. It's going to be the 76ers. I think you have to give it to them based on all the money they've spent in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know how they're going to put it all together, but they're going to win regular season games. I don't know who's going to be taking the final shot. I don't know if Simmons is going to be able to kind of finally get that jumper going and if Embiid's going to be in shape. But assuming they are, I think they're the team to beat in the East. And Tobias Harris, we need to see an all-star. You just got paid.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. I think Tobias will have a better year now that I think it was kind of awkward because he was kind of like the fourth fiddle last year. Now with Butler going, he's that clear-cut third guy behind Simmons and Embiid, and you can even say second from an offensive point of view because, Simmons sometimes goes missing offensively.
Who you got pegged at number 3, Zach?
Number 3, I've got Boston. I think they're going to be better than people think they are, and they're going to struggle a lot defensively. They're going to need to score. They're going to need to be put in similar scoring numbers to when Isaiah Thomas was there because on the defensive end of the floor, they've got Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, and that's not really enough. They really didn't have a chance to go grab a big rim protector. They got Enes Kanter, who's not a rim protector, but he's going to score. So the object of the game is to score more than the other team. So if that's the case, I think they're going to be top 4 in the East. It's going to be a very interesting season in Boston, barring any big moves.
Great. Now who's next? I think I could guess, but you tell us.
Number 5 is probably the hardest one to choose. I think you have to go with the Toronto Raptors, even though they lost Kawhi Leonard. They're still a championship team minus 1 player. And if you remember the finals, he wasn't like their best player in every game. Pascal Siakam took a major rise last year, so did Fred VanVleet. They also still have Marc Gasol on an expiring contract, Serge Ibaka on an expiring contract, Kyle Lowry on an expiring contract. And like I said before, the East is not that loaded. So if they can make a move, I don't think that Masai Ujiri and Nick Nurse plan on saying, we won a title, we'll be fine for the next 20 years. I think they want to compete, and those players got to have like a taste of victory, and they want to prove that they're not just one player.
Just to make sure, is this your 4th or 5th team, Zach?
That was my 4th.
Okay, and then rounding out the top 5 out East.
And number 5, I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. I think with the acquisitions they made this year, I think they got a lot better, especially with Malcolm Brogdon. You're finally going to see Sabonis starting. Well, he should have been doing for the past 2 seasons. Thaddeus Young is gone. Aaron Holiday, who they drafted last year from UCLA, I think is going to get a lot better. They did lose Darren Collison, but I think they'll make up for it. Then you have Miles Turner, who really hasn't broke out yet, even though they paid him a couple of years ago. I'm expecting some noise out of him. And then TJ Warren, who really hasn't been that much of a marquee name since he came to the league from NC State. People forgot they got him at the draft. They traded him right before the draft, and I think he's going to have a big year.
Moving over to the Western Conference, who's your number 1 overall seed?
Number 1, I'm going to go with the Clippers. I think based on the core they developed last year, they really didn't lose that many big-name pieces. Aside from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Gallinari, they still have a very fierce defense. Patrick Beverley, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. I don't think anybody wants to face them on a nightly basis. And then they still have Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench. So if Kawhi's off one night or Paul George is off one night, you're guaranteed to get, 20, 22 from those two alone? I think they're going to be interesting into the Battle of L.A. Hopefully that's a Christmas Day game.
How do you think the load management will factor into all of this, though?
I think they'll be able to. I think it's assumed that Kawhi is not going to be playing 80 games, but I think they have the pieces around them to kind of supplement it. I think it's going to be a very tight race. I don't think they're going to win 65 games. I think it's going to be. They're going to be up there, but it's going to be close. I think they know that Kawhi, they need to manage him, and they know that Paul George, they need to manage him because he had 2 shoulder surgeries this offseason. and they really got to figure that out. But with Doc Rivers, you got Jerry West, you got Steve Ballmer. I think they can get it done.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. They're a very deep team now. Who's next on the totem pole?
Number 2, I have the Blazers. I think
wow.
I think getting Hassan Whiteside was one of the most underrated moves this offseason. Look at what Portland's done with kind of like reclamation projects. They got something out of Evan Turner a little bit. They finally got Rodney Hood to show up, and they were pretty close to getting to the finals last year. They didn't perform too well in that Western Conference final, but they showed that they have that killer mentality. And I think with you have Jusuf Nurkic coming back, you've got Whiteside coming back. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with down low, and they always surprise. I know they're never considered one of the marquee names. They're always there. I think they'll be there again.
But Zach, a 2 seed?
Zach, I'm gonna give you some intel. Mark has them missing the playoffs next year.
Ooh.
I have them on the outside looking in, Zach. I just don't think they got better. I think they got worse.
Ooh, interesting. We'll see. Well, we'll see in June where they're at.
I have them, I believe, as my 5th seed behind the Jazz, or maybe 6th. But I think they'll be a playoff team.
What does number 3 look like, Zach?
Number 3, I'm gonna give it to the Nuggets. They were neck and neck with the Warriors last year, ultimately falling to 2, and then they lost to the Blazers. But they're just getting better. Jamal Murray just got paid. Gary Harris really hasn't found his groove. They got a couple guys in the past 2 drafts who are question marks. Michael Porter Jr. didn't play in Summer League, even though it was heavily anticipated that he would, and he seems like if he's catching the injury bug a lot. But they have depth. They got Bol. If he can give you anything, that's a plus where they drafted him. I think they're going to be Paul Millsap's back. I think they're going to be interesting, and I think they'll get back. I don't think they're going to be a contender in any way, but they're going to be a great regular season team.
Yeah, I see them being a good regular season team that way.
Yeah. I can see the Nuggets playing pretty good. They'll have some continuity too. Some of their best players back.
Who checks in at number 4?
Number 4 is Houston. I think they're going to score with the best of them. They're going to be back there this year. Excuse me. And I think they're the reason I put them at 4 and not higher is because I think they're going to struggle out of the gate. I think everybody really assumes that. But I think they'll be able to get it together, not to the point where we're really considering that they're going to win a title for the first time since Hakeem Olajuwon won. But they're going to be able to score. They're going to be in every game. They're not going to be getting blown out very often. And hopefully Harden's hitting shots and Russ is hitting shots because I think they're going to be right up there with them. We'll see how it works. It could be amazing, but it was a low risk move to go grab Russell Westbrook, and the possibilities are boundless. It's going to be really interesting to see the Houston Rockets this year.
Zach Brooks' power rankings real provocative right now, right? Really mixing it up in the order of things right now.
Gets people going.
It does get people going. All right, what's at number 5?
You're going to love number 5. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think while you did get Anthony Davis, you did get LeBron James, you did get a lot of good role players, the issues in the organization didn't just disappear. And I think that's something that no one's talking about. If you're sick and you go to see and you bring a new doctor in, you're still sick. You might be a little bit better, but I think some of their problems are going to affect them in the early season. I think there's going to be some blowups. They still have a lot of big personalities in the locker room, and you have 3 head coaches. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work. I have a feeling that not all 3 of them will be there by the end of the season. And if any players have particular favorite coaches and they disappear, that's not going to be good for team morale. I think they need to figure that out. I think they're obviously going to be the number 1 contender. That's basic. But we got to see the issues didn't disappear. So let's keep an eye on that. I think they're going to be good. I think it's going to be Showtime again, but it's not all perfect there. And I think we're going to find out a little bit.
Okay, so let's see. Let's try to guess 6, 7, 8 then. I think you have the Warriors next at 6.
Yeah. I think D'Angelo Russell, I think he'll stay. I don't think they're going to trade him. Plus, I don't think they can trade him until December. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then you don't know. Okay. And then you don't know when Klay Thompson's going to come back. And if Russell can give you anything while you wait for Klay, I don't think they're anticipating being a contender this year, but they know they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll be right there. Get some other underrated pieces. They got Alec Burke, who's been interesting. They got Willie Cauley-Stein, who no one's talking about. I love that. He's going to be incredible. I think he's going to take a lot of Looney's minutes, but I think he's a really interesting player, and they got him real cheap. But if they do move Russell, they're just going to get even better. But if anybody thinks they're not going to make the playoffs, they haven't been watching basketball for the past 5 years.
What does 7 and 8 look like?
7 and 8, I think you have Utah. I think they got a lot better this year. Mike Conley's great, but he's still not an all-star. If he was in the East, maybe he'd be an all-star. They did get Bogdanovich. I think he's going to be a big help too. Donovan Mitchell should continue to get a little bit better. But Rudy Gobert is still not really the best offensive weapon, and they did lose Derek Favors. So I think they're going to be a work in progress. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, and I think they're going to impress a lot of people, but I think they're still one player away.
And then 8.
8, I think it's going to be – I like the Kings. I think they were right on the brink of getting in last year, and I think they got better. So I think De'Aaron Fox is up and coming. I think he's one of the best young players you have in the league. Bagley is getting even better. He's amazing at Duke. I've never seen somebody with the double jump when he's going back up for the offensive rebound that can do it as well as him. And they still have Harry Giles, who really hasn't done much. And he was the number 1 player coming into college a couple of years ago. He's had the 2 knee surgeries, but I think he's getting better. They've got the other Bojan Bogdanovic, much of the pronunciation. I think they're going to surprise a few people. And they did go out, and they still have Harrison Barnes, who I don't know if he's still going to be on the season. But last year, they did start off the year grabbing Vince Carter and grabbing Zach Randolph, spending a lot of money on that. And they didn't make the playoffs, but they were close. And I think that veteran presence really helped. And they did get Trevor Ariza. They overpaid for – I'm drawing a blank from
Harrison
the
Barnes.
HB.
Yeah. So they did get him and Dedmon. They got Dedmon. I think they overpaid for him. But I think they're going to be a really fun team. They're a league pass team, and I think they're coming. And if they can move around some of their pieces, I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be really good this year.
So no Spurs. I think the Spurs fall out of the race.
Or the Pels.
The Pels, I think they're going to be the most fun team to watch. But I know they did well in summer league, but they have to. I think they've got a slow process going. They said that Drew Holiday was going to be an MVP consideration. I don't think they've ever watched Drew Holiday play. They got a great young team. I think they have the best young core in basketball, but I think they're a year, maybe 2 years away from making the postseason.
Oh, and no love for the Spurs.
Now, I think Pop's coming to the end of the road. I don't know if he's going to be ready for another rebuild. They're getting DeJounte Murray back. DeRozan's getting another year older. Aldridge's another year older. But they don't have any guys that really wow you. And I think you really need that. I know Pop's going to get them close. I don't think they're going to be there this year. I think it finally breaks the streak. I think it's gone back like 20-something years.
Zach Brook of NBC Sports Washington, his NBA power rankings, his way too early NBA power rankings, seeing these rosters. We're all doing it anyway, all right? We have to kind of see how it's going to all be playing out. Zach, let's talk some NFL later on, all right? We're going to be really ramping that up. Have a good one.
Thanks, Zach.
Appreciate it. Thanks.